this inmate has made over the last 3 years is substantial and positively affecting your personality. Do you agree with that? Do you feel that you've come a long way in the last 3 years?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
The parole board then questioned Patricia Krenwinkel again about her crimes. They were looking for inconsistencies in her story and for any signs of remorse.
I did have a couple questions. In regards to the first residence that you went to, the Polanski residence, prior to leaving the ranch, you armed yourself with a knife, didn't you?
Yes, I was given that.
Okay. And when you went there, and Mr. Watson was cutting the telephone wires, you were pretty well aware of what you were going to go into the residence for, weren't you?
At the most, I wasn't sure what we were going to do until he said what we were going to do. I had no idea. Because at that point in time, like I said, we had been going and doing robberies, basically. We had been stealing things. I had no idea that that's what the intention was at all.
Okay, when you
been expressed.
Okay. When you say you had been doing robberies, what do you mean by robberies? Were you stealing from people, or you were stealing out of houses, or?
Well, actually, there had been a couple robberies that were done in houses, yes.
Where the victims were present?
No.
So you went into homes where no one was present, you took some property?
Right.
Okay. Did you think you're going to kill anyone?
Absolutely not.
Were you the type of person that wanted to kill someone at that point in time?
Absolutely not.
Why didn't you leave?
I would have never thought of leaving. I didn't know what to do. I was waiting for instructions.
Okay, so the first victim shot outside of the actual residence itself, but on the property of the residence, right? And you've seen this person mortally wounded, now you go into the residence. And apparently you displayed your knife at that point in time and actually rounded up 3 of the victims.
Yes.
Okay, and that would have been Miss Tate, Folger, and one other person. Did you take 3 people out of the bedrooms?
One of the, yeah, I think.
Kind of round them up?
Yes.
Sebring?
Yes,
Sebring?
yes.
Okay. You rounded them up and brought them all into one room?
Sometimes I am not sure who said what and what really happened, because there are so many accounts from everyone. So to do it, so to do complete justice, I don't have absolute recall of 25 years ago.
I guess the issue here is when I first listened to what you had to say, I got the impression that you were very naive, didn't know what was going to happen there, went in, were caught up in this thing. One woman runs outside, you chase her and stab her, and then you kind of go off into the distance at the back house, and then all these other terrible things happen to everyone in the house. But actually, your role was a little bit different than that. You actually did help round up the people inside of the house. And as a matter of fact, when you rounded them up, I believe that's about the time that Miss Folger began fighting with you. She actually fought with you in the house, didn't she?
Yes, when they were trying to tie the people up, yes.
Okay. And how about Sebring? He started to...
yeah, he fought with Tex.
And then he ended up being shot at that time.
Yes.
And Folger ran outside. And that's when you pursued her,
yes,
after the initial fight, and ended up stabbing her. And so you had already seen at this point in time 2 persons murdered, or at least mortally wounded, and you yourself had participated in an additional one where someone was laying possibly mortally wounded. She had been stabbed numerous times. And then you went to the back house. Now, what did you think at that point? 3 people were dying or dead.
Yes, and I felt, it's hard to describe, because I had no idea even how to connect a thought together at that point. I had no idea what we were going to do when we went to that residence. When all the madness took place, I had absolutely there was no way to put together the kind of rational thinking, because there was no rational thought in my head. I had followed the instructions as I had been told to do, as I'd been doing for a very long time. And at that point, everything was out of my control. I felt helpless. I felt hopeless to do anything. All I was doing is carrying through a macabre dance. It was horrible, and I didn't know how to stop it. And I never knew how to stop it, just like I never knew how to stop Manson all along.
At that point in time, when this was occurring, you weren't under the influence of drugs, were you?
Yeah. But my reality had been altered from years of drug use.
Now, in reference to the LaBianca deaths, my understanding, the way you explained it, as I understood it before, was that when you went into the house, she was in the bedroom, you went in and she had a pillowcase on her head, and you attempted to stab her, couldn't, and then you went and got text, and you don't know what happened. But as I understand some of the documents related to this matter, in fact, when you went in with Miss Van Houten, she placed the pillowcase over Miss LaBianca's head. And then when you stabbed, you didn't bring a knife to that residence. You used the knife from the house, is that correct? You went into the kitchen and got a knife?
Yes.
And you went into where Mrs. LaBianca was, and you stabbed her. And in fact, you tried to stab her in the neck, and I guess you stabbed her in the collarbone so hard the knife either broke or glanced off. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's when you went and got Tex Watson, because he had a bayonet.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when he came back into the room, and you were there when he started stabbing her. Is that correct?
I was leaving him because he was telling me instructions, and I was leaving him.
But you watched him stab her.
No, I don't recall that.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then. The only reason that you went and got your crime partner was because you were ineffective in murdering this woman, so
That's
you
right.
got someone that could do the job properly. Okay. Any questions, Ms. Bentley?
I just have a couple. And what was your relationship with Manson?
Originally, when I met Mr. Manson, basically I fell in love with a man. I met him, and it was he and I thought I was falling in love with a man. Eventually, he started defining himself as a god. And once becoming a god, then there is not a male-female relationship as would be considered.
So initially you had an intimate relationship.
Yes.
But then it changed.
Yes, absolutely.